about net zero and the value it can provide for you as a business and how it's linked to economic development. So a little bit of housekeeping maybe. So just to let you know that the session will be recorded, and please stay on mute until the end of the session. We will have plenty of time for your questions, and yeah, we will have 10 minutes to questions and answers at the end of the session. So Harriet, not sure if you can start the recording unless
Yeah,
someone.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've started that for everybody now. Thank you.
excellent. Thank you very much. So, starting off with a little bit about us. So, we are doing this event today in partnership with the Good Business Charter. So, and we are the Green Economy. So, Green Economy, we are part of a bigger company called the Growth Company. We are originally based in Manchester, a profit for purpose organization. We are all about green economy is all about sustainability, and we have a very clear mission or vision of equitable transition to net zero, one that ensures resilience and competition for the businesses. This is in alignment with the mission to help those businesses to achieve net zero and to align it with their strategic objectives. So I've said the term a couple of times now. So what is net zero? We hear it all around the news maybe, and it's a big focus area for the government as well. So net zero refers to achieving the balance between the greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere and those removed from the atmosphere. So what do we mean by greenhouse gases? So greenhouse gases is not only the carbon dioxide, but it also includes methane, nitrous oxide, water vapor, and the refrigerant gases as well, which is CFC for shortage. So the problem is those gases are trapping the heat into the atmosphere, not allowing it to escape the earth, which means we are having a warmer climate and or a hotter atmosphere that is leading to extreme weathers that we're currently experiencing. So this wasn't the case maybe 50 years ago. Um, so the UK government since 2019, on the back of the Paris Agreement, which took place in 2015, to have a target to reach net zero by 2050. And I think all of you now are asking maybe the question of, are we on target? So unfortunately, the answer is no. And the latest figures from the government says we need to do more work, we need to upscale our renewable energy, specifically the offshore winds, and we need also businesses to get engaged. So, and the initiatives are there for us, and the tools are there for us to reach net zero. It's just we need a bit of a more effort to do this. So every local authority has its own net zero target as well. And since we are talking about, or maybe I'm focused on York specifically, um, I'm going to be talking about York net zero targets. So York, since 2022, had a climate emergency, a 10-year plan, um, climate emergency, which net zero is part of it. So the plan is to reach net zero by 2030. So obviously that needs the engagement of the community, businesses, individuals, and everyone needs to be on board. So carbon neutrality. So what is the difference? We also hear sometimes about carbon neutral or carbon net zero, or net zero and carbon neutrality. So they're not the same. So when we talk about carbon neutrality, we're talking specifically about absorbing whatever carbon emitted while explicitly talking about carbon, while when we say net zero, that means the wider greenhouse gases. So governments globally, when they adopt targets to reduce emissions and fight climate change, they tend to use the net zero rather than the carbon neutrality. And you can also find some organizations targeting or focusing on saying they're going to be carbon neutral, but not net zero. So you can be carbon neutral, but that doesn't mean you are reaching or reach net zero. So why this is important for businesses? Why is it important to be net zero or to have a plan towards net zero? First reason could be regulatory compliance. So at the moment in the UK, for a business, you are it's an obligation for you to report your emissions if you have a turnover of 36 million or you have an employees of a number of employees of 250 plus. But as time evolves and as the country becomes more ambitious into achieving the targets, it is expected to be this regulations to be more rigorous and more comprehensive to include smaller businesses as well. So it becomes important to start thinking about your net zero and your environmental plans and whether you have some now and whether you need to develop some in the very near future. So that also, even if at this point in time, when you talk about if you are definitely part of a supply chain, you have services and you have products you are supplying to other organizations. Those organizations, if they are big organizations, they will be asked about their environmental impact. And since you are part of that supply chain, they will be asking you as well for your environmental plans. For example, the NHS at this point have a 10% weight for bidding to have an environmental policy in place. If you're supplying any kind of services or products to the NHS, you have to have an environmental policy in place. And that's going to be the case as the more it allow you to be more competitive in the business environment, as well as giving you more or allowing you to access more opportunities. So another reason, the obvious reason could be is saving costs. So it's directly contingent, the environmental impacts and the financial benefits you can gain from reducing your emissions. If you are switching to LEDs rather than the traditional bulbs, that is 8%. LEDs are 80% more efficient than the traditional bulbs, which means you will have less energy bills as well as less environmental impact. So that's another reason for you to have that environmental policy in place. Um, Another reason could be is enhance corporate reputation. So why you want to enhance your corporate reputation? This is no longer an option to have a net zero plan in place. So as we are now in a country that is more conscious, we have more customers that are cautious about the environment and they want to deal with companies or organizations that are have sustainability at heart. So, for example, this is a survey that is made in 2022 and shows targeting individuals and asking them, is it important that you deal with a company or you buy goods from a company that have sustainability in place? And the answers were 65% of them say yes, while very very little of those who's been surveyed says it doesn't matter. So this is a clear case that shows you have to have environmental policy in place and you have to have sustainability at the heart of your business if you're going to be more competitive or you're going to be developing your business. So this obviously comes with its challenges. And this is where companies like us comes in hand, so we can help you to identify the challenges as well as how to target them. And at this point, I will be handing things to my good colleague Alistair to take us through a little bit about the challenges that businesses face and what they can do to tackle those barriers. So over to you, Alistair.
Yeah, thanks very much, Hale. So in terms of those other, it's not necessarily a straightforward project to take on when we have no knowledge of this as a business, or you have some limited knowledge. It can seem like a very daunting task to add this along with your dozens of other areas of focus in your portfolio, whether it be trying to keep clients happy, trying to keep costs down, trying to match expectations of quality, searching for new business, keeping existing business. All of those things are real challenges, keeping the lights on, etc. Making sure all of these bumps in the road around cost, taxation are all things that you can manage as an organization. But what I try to understand and put forward is that there are always going to be challenges approaching this, but there are also almost always a good solution to those. So obviously, so Hale's mentioned it before, that there are costs associated with making change within a business to reduce your impacts, your environmental impacts. Absolutely. So those costs might well be that you need to invest in something to change the equipment you're using, moving to, for example, lower cost travel transport solutions, maybe a different packaging supplier, looking at how you can improve your resilience in your supply chain, and maybe sourcing something from a different supplier, and that may well involve a cost to the business. So all of those things that involve reducing your environmental impacts, as in reducing your carbon impacts, both on your site, both within your business, and also up and down your supply chain, your value chain, may well have a cost associated with them. Other ones really common is, I just don't understand the technology we're talking about here, or I don't have the knowledge of how to implement a plan with my supply chain. So to understand how you can work with your supply chain and reduce impacts for you and your suppliers. We don't have a good, strong understanding of this, the technical knowledge, or even just some of the basic information as to where to look. The other two are quite linked. So I understand what I think I need, but I don't trust this brand new technology that we've been told we need. So we need a heat pump. Is it going to work? We need electric vehicles. Am I going to get the range? I don't necessarily trust the technology that's been suggested to me, or this new biofilm or packaging that I need for my particular product or service. I don't trust the technology. And then linked to that is, well, what about the actual providers of that technology? Do we trust those people to deliver a quality product, deliver a quality service, and make sure that we have trust in that solution, whatever that might be? So that might be buying things for your products, your processes, your services, or it might be the equipment you use for your day-to-day operations. So those elements of trust are things we see a lot in our questions and the barriers that get put up. Other ones is just day-to-day. Can this particular improvement to our operation be done without any disruptions or any impact on day-to-day? So as you can imagine, solutions to that, there are ways around it. You can look at how you actually make those changes, whether it's equipment, whether it's machinery, lighting, heating systems, doing that obviously weekends or over nights if it's feasible to do those, so that you're not disrupting the operations. But actually, to flip that on its head, one thing we like to say is we would try to make sure that any changes to a business are actually going to make the life of the person who's in contact or in interacting with that particular business area, make their life easier. You want to be able to push an open door with all of these technologies. So it's about putting all of that into a good package of information and support to try and overcome those barriers. So on the next slide, we've got some of those solutions effectively. So one obviously is, and we would say this is come to us, talk to us about this. So whether it be, I don't know if this particular solution for our diesel operations is hydrogenated vegetable oil. Is that HVO? Is that the right solution for us as a small vehicle operator? We have a fleet of 7 vans. Is this the right operational choice for us to reduce our environmental impact? Come to us and talk to us, and we can give you some answers on that as one example. Or it might be electric vans. It might be you're looking at your packaging of materials to come into your site, looking at going paperless, looking at your office environment. How can we reduce the amount of paper and go to electronic systems? How can we do that? So technical solutions is what we're about. One of the main things is we talk about is the business case. So for small changes, let's just example of changing your supplier of something, or just getting rid of single-use plastics in your office. They don't necessarily need a big, long, detailed business case. But effectively what a business case does is it assesses a situation and puts a proposal together, and lays out the pros, the cons, and then makes a recommendation. So it will basically lay out what are the benefits, what are the costs, and then says, what do we do next? So that that business case might well be having a laying out a detailed proposal for a new lighting system with LEDs, with good switching and control systems, with sensors, people, motion sensors, as well as lighting sensors, laying it all out in a good, strong fashion, saying these are the benefits, this is how much carbon we're going to save, these are the kilowatt hours of electricity we're going to save, and the costs primarily, and this is our return on that investment. What's the capex, what's the cost on that? And then you obviously overlay those two over the top, you've got yourself a return on that investment. And then your final point is, what is the decision following that business case? It's, do we do it tomorrow? Do we do it next month? Do we put it off until next year? Because actually it's quite a big capital cost. So that's the business case is really important to make sure. If you're not the decision maker, so you may just have these conversations in your head. If you're the decision maker in your business, you may well say, actually, yes, I just want to clear this up. What is it going to cost us? What are the benefits? Let's do it next week. But it may be having conversations with co-directors or other people in decision-making positions within the business. But if that's not you, you may well have to start thinking about working in their language, talking in their language. So discussing return on investment, payback period. What are my cost savings if you're speaking to the finance director? But equally, if you're talking to operations or people in a manufacturing role, you want to make sure it's making their life easier, getting the product out the door quicker and with fewer quality rejects, problems with returns. So making sure you've got a solution that actually makes their life easier. So the third point there is around people. So we have identified in putting together opportunities, whether it's energy efficiency, waste, water, travel, transport, renewables, all those opportunities we've identified, around 50% of them have zero capex or no cost at all, or very, very low cost. So they're the sort of things you might spend £50, £100 on a timer, a control, something that costs really low, low cost, but it is a very quick return on that investment. But in the majority of cases, that 50% that we're talking about that are really cheap to install and get you some quick returns do require people to help you out with that. So bringing everyone along with you on this journey, getting everybody else enthused, engaging people, getting behavior change within a business is vital for those low and no cost solutions. Yes, there are government incentives. So if you're looking at things like a small boiler system, so if your boiler, maybe your gas boiler is hung on a wall, it might be less than 40 kilowatts, you can take advantage of the boiler scrappage scheme, even as a small business. So that will enable you to change to a heat pump, gives you that £7,500 grant. You might be looking at electric vehicles. Your charge points, you get £350 from the government for each charge point you want to put in. And yeah, there are many others regionally, locally around the areas, but at the moment it's around trying to build that business case and then make sure you're looking at those low cost and no cost solutions first, because what that does is that gives you momentum. If you haven't already looked at those, gives you a momentum to then look at maybe the medium-sized projects like a bit of lighting or heating before you then look at the really big ones like solar panels or something bigger like that. Okay, so one of the other things we always want to make very clear, and it's maybe I've highlighted it, illustrated in that last comment, was try not to jump in with both feet first and do everything at once. It's not feasible, whether that's business change management or looking at a new product or going into a new market, dealing with a new supplier. All these things, do them in small bite-sized chunks. and we can help you to prioritize those opportunities from quickest return on investment, those that are less than a 2-year payback. It might be lowest capital cost first. It might be the biggest cost savings first. We help you prioritize those opportunities top to bottom to make sure you start with the easy ones or the quick ones first, and then move your way down, and do this in a very phased approach, so you're not getting net zero fatigue in this area, and people tend to switch off at that point, but also it means you're much more likely to achieve a longer term strategy of reducing your impacts from your current carbon emissions down to net zero if you do that staged and phased bite-sized approach to it. Okay, I'll hand you back over to Suhail.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alistair. So yeah, I think I've already mentioned how we can help as a green economy. So it's part of the initiative, specifically talking about York here. So it's part of the City of York initiative to be net zero. We provide you with the services of carbon footprint guiders. We can show you how you can account for your emissions across all scopes, and by showing you the way, futuristically speaking, you won't be needing anyone else to do it for you. You will be able to do it yourself instead of paying loads of or chunks of money for someone to just account your carbon for you. Another thing we can do is we do site assessments. You have a premises in York, we go in, do a site assessment, try to identify the quick wins Alistair has been talking about, and identifying then the bigger impacts or the larger investments that you can do and will give you a greater return of investment as well. And as well as renewable energy solutions. If you tried, we have a marketplace. If you decided to install solar panels or replace your boiler or anything like that, we have a pool of trusted suppliers that we can signpost you to, take by your hand, sit you in a table to provide the services for you as well. So yeah, again, what's the benefits of all of that? So in a nutshell, you will be reducing your operational costs, enhance your sustainability, and future-proofing your business against any regulatory changes or anything like that. So we have a number of case studies. One of them is City Cruises, and they've been recently engaged with the program, and they are on track to save 4,600 on their annual bills, as well as 6 tons of carbon. They've already started replacing LEDs so far. They have replaced 38 fluorescent lights, and they've said they are saving 1,157 in costs and reduction of ton. So that is a clear study of the value they have found after engaging with the program, and they now know what they need to do to reduce their emissions as well as their bills. So yeah, working towards the big plan. I'm also honored to introduce Bob Scratch today from the Fulbright company. Bob is very high on very great on sustainability. So I'm going to hand over to Bob now to talk a little bit about their sustainability effort Fulbright has been doing. So over to you, Bob. And I think you will be able to share your slides, Bob. Is that okay?
Yeah, have you put them on there, or have I got to do that?
I can put them up for you. Yep.
Okay, good. Will you move them on, or shall I move them on?
I'll put them up for you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we've been working together for a little while. I've got one of these, which is written by Suhail, and we had made some efforts towards being more environmental some years ago. Here we go. We'll go through these fairly quickly because I was supposed to do 3 or 4 and I did about 10. So anyway, the key elements on this particular slide are to do with the fact that we began the business 40 years ago. And in 2011, we put in 50 solar panels and just mentioned digital printing there. So printing, we've been doing it for a long time, but we're always looking to see how we can improve productivity and cost efficiency and so on. So next slide. Oh, it's got some of those in it. Yep.
Yeah.
So what we had put in in 2011, 13 years ago, with 50 solar panels, with a view to reducing our bills, making a long-term investment. And we have a big roof, so you can see from the second picture, the lower picture, we have a pretty good bit of roof space. At the time, it was quite interesting. We did have a look at putting solar panels on the other side of the roof, just to see if we could gain anything more. But because of the angle of the building, it's quite interesting what a big difference it made having the building pointing the right way. You get almost nothing going the other way. So it's worth checking out which way around your building is, still where you're going to get some reasonable return on investment. But this is the story for, just go back one. Sorry. Yep. So just to put that in context, we expected to get £2,800 in income from the feed-in tariff, and an energy reduction bill for the bills for about 400. And we spent about 30,000 on installing these solar panels. In fact, what we're getting now is nearer to £5,000 a year in terms of the feed-in tariff. Obviously, we're on a better rate than you would get today, but this is quite a long-term investment. And to put that in context, our annual expenditure on energy is about 5,500. So we're getting back almost as much as we're spending. So we're almost, if you discount the fact that we bought all the panels in the first place, we're not spending very much on energy at all. Should point out though, you do have to pay corporation tax on the income. So there's a government campaign to be you're investing money on the basis of trying to save some CO2, and in fact, then you get taxed on it, corporation tax. Anyway, next slide. So there's a jolly picture of people installing it. There's a slightly closer picture of what our premises look like, and the 50 solar panels. So a few other things we've been trying to do, we have done for some years, delivered most of our local printing on a cycle courier network, and it's about maybe 20-30% of all our printing, and they could take, even if it's quite heavy, they'll take some quite heavy boxes. Obviously that's not just efficient in terms of the environment, but it also means it probably gets the customer quicker than being stuck in the traffic as well. Earlier this year, we had some monitors put onto some of our equipment, which is where this report comes from. And that was quite interesting. It particularly showed us how much energy we use when we don't think we're using any at all. So I'd recommend, if you get involved with the program, that you take advantage of them having some monitors put in. And one of the things we've been doing alongside that is to put LEDs in everywhere. And we've got a few more things that we can do. So most of our paper is recycled, or it's Forest Stewardship Council certified. And in terms of plastics now, we still do use the plastic boxes, but we are looking to develop our own cardboard boxes which have our own bespoke logos on, and so on. The rest of the slides are more about printing in general, which is probably less useful. We could do a zip through those. We do offset litho printing and digital printing. The inks that we use these days on the offset litho are largely vegetable based. Very little toxicity in any of our processes today compared to 20 or 30 years ago. With the digital prints, all of the consumables that we use for digital printing are recycled, and they go back to Xerox to be refilled. So that's as environmental as these sort of things can be. Carry on. And just lastly, some of our customers that we print for. So we do all different sorts of jobs, but in the Cliff Richard Fan Club magazine, as well as printing for the Barbican and the Food Standards Agency and City Council, gin companies, Brown's department store. And the last one, I think, this is some examples of some of the products, chocolate bar wrappers, packaging, and so on. And then I think there may be one more. There's two more. There we go. There's pictures inside the factory of some of the equipment. And then the last one is just the QR code. Finish off. So in terms of our environmental journey, we've still got some way to go. I think the challenges are management time, spending time sorting out some of the things that we want to do as a result of the carbon reduction plan. But I do take it's about how to eat an elephant one bite at a time, just trying to do a little bit each time we replace something, we move things on a bit. Each time we think about stocks and what we're using here in terms of consumables, then we take it into account. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. And I think the message is, it doesn't matter what you do, there is always a way to reduce your emissions as well as getting costs. Because I get sometimes this conversation when someone tells me that I can't do anything about this, it's just papers that I used to print, for example. So I think, yeah, it's just people need to know that it doesn't, regardless of the type of activities, there is always a more sustainable way to do that activity. Um, so yeah,
Yes, you could
very
use paper.
interesting.
Use paper that's has less environmental impact, for instance.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, again, I'm honored to also introduce Sam, the development manager for the Good Business Charter. So we have a partnership with the Good Business Charter to deliver the values for businesses based in New York. We're working together, and I'm very glad to have them in this event today. So we'll be handing over to Sam from here on to talk a bit about why is it important to become a accredited and become part of the Good Business Charter. So over to you, Sam.
Thanks, Sahel. Harriet, have you got the slide? Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, so hi, I'm Sam Beardall. I'm the Good Business Charter's Head of Community and Places. So essentially what that means is I support our community of accredited organisations, and I also work with local businesses and anchor organisations to champion responsible business in places such as York and other places around the country. So during the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give a whistle-stop tour of how caring for people and the planet is good for business, which has been backed by decades of research, and hopefully I'll bring it to life with some examples of York-based companies. So when businesses behave responsibly, essentially everybody wins. It's easy to see how society benefits. For example, if all organisations paid their fair share of taxes and didn't use tax havens, there would be a lot more resources for our hospitals, schools, and local amenities. So everybody would benefit. If fewer people would experience financial difficulties, if everybody was paid a real living wage and had fair hours and contracts. And people who feel valued and cared for at work are much happier and more fulfilled. So as a whole, as a society, we would be much more content and sort of happy and fulfilled. Fewer businesses would fail, and we'd have a stronger economy if all of our invoices were all paid promptly. And as a small businesses, we all understand the impact of not being paid and sort of chasing invoices, and and as a result, lots of businesses do actually, unfortunately, go out of business. So in a nutshell, that's how society will benefit if all businesses behave responsibly. However, it's less universally known that actually taking care of people and our planet is proven to drive growth and business growth and improve resilience. So the seed for the Good Business Charter was actually planted about 40 years ago when our founder, Julian Richer, some of you may know him as the founder of Richer Sounds, he read a book called In Search of Excellence. And this book was actually based on a study of 43 companies across various industries. And what they found 40 years ago, go back even 40 years ago, that the most successful companies had three things in common. And they were that they consistently focused on their customers, they put their employees first, and they had clear values. And so after reading this book, it was like a light bulb moment for Julian, and he decided to make it his mission to do everything he could to take care of his staff and to offer outstanding customer service. And those who follow the Richer Sounds journey will know that, he's absolutely succeeded at that. But what he said was, after reading the book and implementing these things, he found that not only did it help him to sleep better at night, but his profits just kept continuing to go north. His bottom line was just better than ever. So over the years, there's been lots of research into the relationship between responsible business behaviour and performance. In 2015, some academics looked at the evidence from 2,000 studies, and what they found was that 90% of these studies showed that there was a positive relationship between businesses behaving responsibly and their financial performance. But today you can see that, as Sohail mentioned earlier, there's an acceleration in customers and employees looking to buy and work for companies that share their values. So if you have a look at the graph on the right, which was taken very similar to what Sohail said earlier as well, which was taken from a 2023 survey, which was conducted on 22,000 customers to track changing customer sentiments, behaviours and segments. And what you can see is that the younger generation are much more proactive when it comes to avoiding brands that are harmful to the environment and are willing to pay extra based on their sustainability claims. The Co-op's ethical market report has been tracking UK ethical expenditure every year for the last 2 decades. And I wish I'd put a graphic, so it may have illustrated the point better. But basically, what it showed is that the ethical consumer spending in the UK has increased from 47 billion in 2010 up to 141 billion in 2022, and it's just, you know, it just keeps going that way. Deloitte did a survey of almost 23,000 people, millennials and Gen Zs, but what I've actually done is said this is basically people who are aged 43 or younger, because I never know quite who's in which bracket. But anyway, but basically this survey found that 9 in 10 people said they would actually leave a job and work somewhere that better matches their values, which is really interesting. So in 2021, York became the first Good Business Charter city. And essentially that happened when anchor organisations such as Aviva, the council and the universities, alongside local businesses, came together because they wanted to embed and champion responsible business in York and make it a place that puts people and planet at the heart of the city. You know, and I think so, you know, we're still very early on in that journey, but we've done an absolute fantastic job. There's, you know, a lot more organisations now are committed to behaving responsibly, a Good Business Charter accredited, and it's on every agenda. You know, so like last year when it was York Business Month, the first week was dedicated to responsible business. So it's, you know, it's really heartening to see the impact that it's had. So what I'm going to do now is basically use extracts from local business case studies. So we've done a number of case studies with organisations that have embedded good business practices within their organisations and become GBC accredited. And these are just some snippets from those case studies. Yeah, so first of all, one of the business benefits of behaving responsibly is that it helps you to attract and retain the best employees. So some sectors, particularly hospitality and retail, it can be really, really hard to recruit and retain staff, which boils down to the fact that people are less willing to put up with poor pay, 0-hour contracts and unsuitable conditions. And thankfully, you know, as sort of more organisations adopt these behaviours, there's more opportunities for organisations to work with companies that share their values. But Phil Pinder, the founder of Potions Cauldron, or the director of wizardry likes to call himself, and the Hole-in-One, has found that by creating a culture where people feel valued and are paid a real living wage, he's never ever had any issues with recruiting or retaining staff, which is, you know, almost unheard of in his sector. So embedding good business practices can also help to attract more customers. So we did a case study with John Lane, the operations and marketing director of Your Wealth, and quite rightly so, he's identified that potential employees, stakeholders are now looking more closely at the ethos, environmental footprint and corporate social responsibility of the businesses that they want to work with. And then John went on to say that they've already secured new clients on the back of their good business approach. Also, your good business credentials will also give you a leg up when tendering. So local authorities now look for organisations to demonstrate their responsible business commitments when bidding for work. And Your Waste, a local organisation, has also introduced the Good Business Charter into their tender scoring processes, and lots more organisations are following suit. I don't know if you've experienced it, but a lot more companies are now doing sort of like supplier questionnaires. So when they're looking to work with people, they really, really want to know, are you committed to environmental sustainability, and what are you doing to take care of the people that you work with and that you sell to? The good business practice can also help you reduce costs. So, for example, if you treat your employees well, you're going to have less staff turnover, reducing your recruitment and training costs. By maintaining loyal customers, you're going to have lower customer acquisition costs because you're not having to go out there and increase your marketing budget, etc. And Chris Pegg, one of the early sort of who is the commercial and marketing manager of City Cruises and one of the sort of early GBC accredited organisations, said that he found that by actively reducing their environmental impact, such as implementing energy saving measures and reducing waste, they've achieved cost saving and improved operational efficiency. But since then, Chris went on to access the green economy support that Sahel's been talking about now. And what he said was, what they were doing before, they were doing everything that they could to be sustainable. They were looking at the 10 components of the GBC and and looking at how they could be more sustainable. But what he found was that after working with Sahel, they had much more clarity. So they weren't, rather than sort of just just plucking things out of air, deciding what they were going to do, they developed a carbon reduction plan with the help of Sahel and the funding that the green economy offer. And they came up with an action plan that had 6 actions. And he said that 2 of them they were able to implement straight away. So, now they're sort of working on that plan, and it's a much more structured approach with much more clarity. I mean, the benefits are endless. How many more slides have we got? So being responsible can also help with your customer engagement. So people who feel valued and listen to a work will go the extra mile. So Segi, the managing director of Teleproducts, found that their employees were more engaged since embedding the GBC components. He said they feel valued and their voices are heard. And as a result, they now fully share in the success of the company and want to, do everything that they can to make the business a success. So, as Alistair said earlier, responsible business is not about doing everything at once. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's an ongoing process. And there are lots of organisations out there, like the Green Economy, that can help you with this journey. And the Good Business Charter is also somebody who can help. So, we can help support your good business journey. The GBC's 10 components, which you can see there on the right, which sort of based, a number of them are based around taking care of your people, and then you've got environmental sustainability, ethical sourcing, prompt payment, that type of thing. So these 10 components were developed with organisations that represent the interests of businesses and employees. So Julian worked with people like the Trade Union Congress, the Federation of Small Businesses, and came up with these 10 components. And we've been going since 2020, and we found that they're still relevant and continue to be a good benchmark for what a responsible business looks like. So the process has been designed to be straightforward and accessible to all. So the first step, if you wanted to become GBC accredited, would be to have a look at what you're already doing. So you may find that you're already doing sort of 4 or 5 out of those 10 components. And then it's just having a look and think, well, actually, what else do we need to do in order to be able to show that we're committed to being a good business charter organization. Now, if you're not sure and you're not, you don't think, you're not quite sure if what you're doing is good enough, or you want to just run something past me, just do get in touch, or access the support out there. So get in touch with Sohail, and if you're worried about your environmental commitment, environmental responsibility commitment, but just do reach out, and we can help you make sure you're on the right path. And then finally, the third step of the GBC. Sorry, I've lost my. No, here we go. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, so basically, once you're accredited, our framework and annual renewal will help you to continue and to embed your good business practices within your organizations. And the 10 components make it really, really easy for customers and employees to know what the businesses are committed to. So the GBC is a perfect way to communicate to potential customers and to potential employees that you do share their values, you are committed to being a good business, and essentially somebody that's really, really good to work with or to work for. So if you are on or thinking about starting your good business journey and want to find out a little bit more about the GBC, just get in touch with me. I'm happy to have a call, or because I'm based in York, we can also meet up and have a coffee and sort of have a chat, and I can whether you're ready to come be GBC accredited, or who you can reach out to put a few more things in place. So wonderful, thank you, and I will hand back over to Sohail for the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sam. I find it amazing, how your organization and mine are delivering value for your businesses. And you had a couple of names on the screen I'm familiar with. They've engaged with the program and they're seeing value from being with the GBC as well as from being engaged with the green economy as well. So it's just we are here, and it's just come forward and ask for help, and definitely we can help you. So call for action, you just come forward. This is a fully funded program by the City of York Council. It's part of the initiative to make the city net zero by 2030, and our partnership is not just with GBC, with every other stakeholders in the City of York as well. So yeah, it's there. The help is for you to access. So please do reach out through email or use the Green Economy website, and you will find an inquiry form you can fill out, which eventually goes back to me, and I will be in touch as soon as you do so. So the floor is open for any questions you may have. Any questions? We have a couple of more minutes if anybody wants to re-emphasize on something in particular, or a comment rather than a question. If not, I think, yeah, it's always easy to finish early, isn't it?
Another cup of tea.
Another cup of tea, indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe another lunch.
So
Okay.
I've got a quick question. Do you guys do sort of green audits? Is that how you help your customer base? Are you going into these into facilities and coming back with audits and telling us or companies what can be done to improve?
Yes, exactly. That's the case. Yes, we do a site assessment. We come in, we look at any opportunity that you may have in, we look at the type of equipment that you have. Are they up to date? Are they outdated? And we will propose alternatives. You can have more efficient alternatives that you can use, which will save you X amount of money and carbon emissions as well. So that's part of the support. Yes.
And how do you keep up to date with new ideas that are coming through, new technology, new innovations in the sort of the move to net zero? Because quite honestly, there's a lot of views on how we do it. Yes, we need to have a heat pump. Yes, we need electric cars and LED light bulbs. And then it all sort of, what else do we do? How do you keep it up to speed with the new stuff, new ideas?
Yes, so from our point of view, we're constantly on the lookout. We actually have our own network of providers of those technologies, amongst many others. We have a good network in our in terms of the training side of things as well. We do quite a lot of that. We speak at panels and events, but we also get information in from various organisations. We have our own internal management systems organization as well. So if it was more about standards, what's the next big thing, or is it a carbon neutrality standard, an ISO 14068 or 64, which might well be to do with managing net zero. So we've got various different sources. But I mean, one of the best ways I find is actually we're going to well, so Hale mentioned about the link we have with companies within the sector, so those that are providing the technologies, and we quite often will just go to the visits they have, so understanding what technologies they're recommending, how they've changed. So it might be the latest in solar panel systems, or it might be whether they're recommending battery storage or not for any particular instances. But yeah, it's a lot there, and we have our own sources of information coming in from various different angles. The problem we find is the as you can imagine, the sort of the lengths that the fossil fuel organization, the lobby, goes to try and suppress that information, it makes our life a bit more difficult. But apart from anything else, we have a huge wealth of information, case studies on our website of people who've actually gone and done this as well. So a real breadth of organizations that have actually seen the good results of implementing a heat pump system or changing all of their vans to electric, problems they might have encountered as well as the positive benefits. So it's not always going to be plain sailing with all these things. But yeah, you're quite right, Dominic. It's tricky to try and keep up to date with what's right and what's wrong, and that might change year on year, whether it's hydrogen or any others.
Yeah, it was interesting when we were talking. I was talking to some of the guys in the NHS in Leeds a few weeks back, and they showed their carbon reduction plan for the hospital. And 20%, or I think it was, no, the NHS as a whole, and 20% of the required savings at the moment, they have no idea how they're going to do it, and they've just put like innovation. So lots to come.
Interesting, yeah. I think it still is the first step, identifying what you need to do, and then maybe the way to do it. It's like the second step. That's how I think of it always in the back of my mind. It's like, yeah, just put things down, pen and paper, and then look at how you can actually put, yeah, make the actions happen. Anyone else? Any questions?
Hi,
Right.
yeah, sorry. Can I just quickly
Hi.
ask? Hi,
Yeah, welcome.
we all work from home. There's about 10 of us, so we're like from, some of us are in Scotland, in York, and down south. So how would you do the audit-y thing if you can't visit the site? Do you know what, if that makes sense? How could you
So in
help in
terms of
that way?
homeworking emissions and what those might mean, so you don't have any office premises, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, it's just a virtual one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in terms of
Yeah.
understanding the impact, we can get some ideas from. There's a government white paper on the working from home emissions, and you can get a rough idea from averages. Moreover, if we've got more accurate information, depends on the numbers, we can do remote surveying. So
Okay.
understanding individual individual premises, homes, energy bills, understanding numbers of days you work from home or elsewhere, numbers of working days, and we can then get a rough idea of actual impacts from a gas, electricity, the carbon impacts from gas, electricity, and any form of work that might be done on the road, any travel associated with business. But if it's not a business premises that's registered within your city council area, then it may be tricky. But am I right in thinking you are within the City of York Council and the company's registered as such?
Yes, yeah.
That should be fine. Yeah, I mean, Suhail can go through more of the details, but yeah, we've done quite a lot of work, as you can imagine, since COVID, quite a lot of work in this area about understanding the impacts of us all sat in our own houses or coming to and from, and maybe commuting less, and reduced emissions from the office, but maybe increased emissions from home.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
We can help with that.
Yeah. There's definitely some advice and help we can provide in there. So please do reach out to me, and we'll be able to talk to you more about it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Any maybe last question? No. Yeah. Well. Okay. Helena's coming up. Yeah. Welcome. You're on mute.
The question so thank you very much. It's all been very interesting. And the question that's been concerning me and challenging me at the moment, excuse me, is digital waste. And I didn't know if that came under your remit or not.
Yeah, so are you meaning disposal of IT equipment, or are you talking about the carbon impacts of moving data?
I'm talking about all of it.
Yeah. We've got quite a good. Sorry, yeah, you carry on.
So I was going to say, it's really shocking when people think, oh, it's brilliant, I'm storing stuff in the cloud. I'm absolutely fine. No, you're not, because you're using up lots of energy and you're using up lots of water.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think sometimes and going paperless, yes, and what are the implications?
Yeah.
So those are the things that are concerning and challenging me at the moment.
Yeah, we could definitely help with that. Again, similar scenarios in terms of understanding the various benchmarks of grams of CO2e or carbon dioxide equivalents for all of those things you just mentioned, whether it's old school email, going back to storing information, and the differences of working out the impacts of your own company websites, how many grams of carbon per click or per search visit to that site, water, all of those impacts are things that we can investigate and understand better if it's something your business is focused on or your clients are focused on when they're visiting your site, you're interacting, so we can help you to understand the impacts there. Yes, if that's an area of focus, definitely we can help.
And it may be that a webinar about that, really spelling it out, so you get it. There's this vast tank of water, just for one click, and it's that sort of starkness. And apparently, because I did a brilliant 6-part program on sustainability, the UK building sector causes the most problem with carbon. I understand. I might be wrong.
That sounds probably quite feasible. Yeah, in terms of the carbon emissions of concrete and cement that we're mixing for. Yeah, that doesn't sound surprising. Shifting materials around the country, but yeah.
Yeah, sometimes
I like the idea. Sorry, Suhail, go for it.
Yeah. Sorry, about the digital carbon footprint, because sometimes just asking yourself this simple questions about, are you using the adequate size of the cloud storage? You could be buying a terabyte of storage, but you're actually using less than 50% of it. So why buying a terabyte? Kind of stuff. And you're sending attachments. You have the cloud. Why are you sending attachments? And your email signature. Do you have a email signature with a figure in it or a picture or not? So it's just small things that makes a lot of difference sometimes. But yeah, there's definitely things to investigate and to improve as well in the digital.
And it's those small things that you need a really, really in your face visual to make you realize the impact. So I would say again, a webinar on something like this, really, really practical stuff would be jolly helpful, I think. And also, I don't think people are aware of it.
Yeah, well, I'm always happy and smiling when someone's asked about this, because it means, yeah, there is awareness to some extent about the digital footprinting. But yeah, definitely worth mentioning it more, talk about it more, so people can be, yeah, more, have it in mind more than the obvious stuff. Definitely. Yeah.
One of the hi, it's Dominic again. One of the real eye openers for me was putting together a rough carbon reduction plan and including scope 3, because we're a company, everybody works from home, we have no offices. Our working from home as a percentage of emissions is 1%. 62% is actually the product that we sell. And so if we're going to do anything that's going to be major to our carbon reduction, we've actually got to look at the product. The top 3: product, getting the product to us from our suppliers, and then the miles we spend driving around going to see customers. Those are the top 3. The other ones are really very, very small. And I'm sure it'll be different for different companies, and certainly different products that you do. But that really focused our mind somewhat.
Yeah, that's also an area that definitely we can help with as well. We have again, we can tell and help you on carbon footprinting, specifically the scope 3, and how you can categorize it and start building data in each category to be able to keep track of your upstream and downstream supply chain as well. Yeah, so conversations, I think, to come. Yeah, well, thank you very much for taking the time and being here today. Hopefully it was informative enough and insightful enough for you. And yeah, please be in touch with Sam or myself or anyone else, basically. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye.